Self-reflection helps us deal with the truth of our own emotions. It helps us learn to understand how we feel about certain things, and it helps us know what we resonate with. Use these journal prompts from Flip the Book and journal or contemplate or use them as conversation starters to see how you feel. How do you resonate with the paragraph read? What section of the paragraph can you take out to be a journal prompt for you? Have fun with it and learn more about yourself through the beautiful craft of journaling. And journaling you can do as little or as much as you feel. So, would you like to play Flip the Book?
Let's play Flip the Book.
Okay, you've got 3 books to pick from. Do you want book 1, 2, or 3? 3. Okay,
Yes.
so this is what I refer to as the big book, which is the Insight and Awareness book, which is the book that I explained was the living document.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be very
Right.
interesting to see where we go.
Okay.
You got
Yes.
1 to 430 pages to pick from.
184.
184. So out of curiosity, did you hear that or feel it?
It just came to me the same way that book 3 did. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say it was even, I can't even know whether it was a feeling or a up
thought.
here or down here, but it just was, that's what came.
You heard it. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got 4 paragraphs to pick from.
Ooh. I don't know. It just came to me 4. So
4. Okay,
yeah.
so just for your understanding, this comes under
Yeah.
the heading of understanding the energetics of the mass energy of mankind. So that's the chapter heading. Just a little
Okay.
heading.
I love it.
Your soul's consciousness seeks to unify the fragmentation of your unresolved emotions by resolving your denial. The resolution of your denial enables you to experience the evolution of your soul and to free yourself from enduring your own perpetual cycles of soul oppression. Evolution is freedom, which will enable you to feel the core of your soul resonating with truth. Your denial and control isolates you from your truth, separating and disassociating you from the reality of being a significant, unique, independent individual soul of true source divine origin consciousness. That's the label I give where we're from. You can use
Yeah.
Great Spirit, universe,
Yeah.
whatever you like.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what does that make you think and feel?
I love it. And I may be completely off base in terms of what you were thinking or the inspiration for that, where that came from. But for me, it just spoke directly to what we were talking about, that Rumi quote, seek not for love, seek for the barriers within you that have been erected against love. To me, you're naming also what I said was the one thing, if I could do it, that everyone I would wish for humanity, which is that it's not so much a game of becoming someone or something different. It's living into the fullness of who you really are. And so you talked about, for example, denial and control, as I hear those as barriers between us and the truth of our fullness and our wondrousness, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I hear a powerful thread running through our conversation and then that paragraph. Does that speak to you, or does it kind of go in a different place for you, that
No,
quote?
it's well, a lot of the time I notice, especially with the Insight and Awareness book, it sums up what we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is always brilliant. But it is, and
Mm-hmm.
I write about denial and control. They are
Mm-hmm.
barriers. So when I look at the human energetics of the emotional baggage, so our soul's unconsciousness,
Yeah.
I break them down into barriers. So the first, we've got our core fears and beliefs and indoctrinations that are really ingrained. I call them soul denial energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next barrier is resistance, denial, avoidance, and codependency. And then it goes into images, illusions, and controlled identities, like the roles we give each other. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mother, but I'm really Lorraine mothering, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but if I just perceive myself as just one role, that's a controlled
Mm-hmm.
identity.
Right.
And then there's judgment, manipulation, confusion and control again. That
Mhm.
is another barrier. And then there's what I refer to as controlled evolution, which there's
Mhm.
lots of different labels for that kind of energy, but anything that oppresses our ability to evolve. So that could
Mhm.
be a belief system, it could be indoctrinations. There's lots of reasons that
Mhm.
we stop our own evolution. And then there's what I refer to as the heresy barrier, which is indifference to truth, where we become so indifferent to truth that we don't value it,
Mhm.
which we can see society is, you know,
Mhm.
gallops along that path
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
Resentment of reality, where we have a arrogant perception of what should be happening for us, and reality is different. So it
Right.
creates this
Right.
resentment within us,
Right.
and yeah, there's denial of reality.
Can
Yeah,
I ask you, did you say you think of those as levels, or do they just exist as each different barriers that exist?
they're barriers that exist. So your
Okay.
ricochet from what I've explored and what I've written
Yeah.
about, you're
Mm.
ricocheting throughout those barriers. It's not as simple as that.
Right.
It's a little bit more complex because
Sure.
there's different patterns that I call soul oppressive patterns as well, and there's all
Mhm.
these different energetic reactions, and also we have
Right.
external, and
Right.
what our internal soul system, our soul's unconsciousness, the same system is the same as what's in the mass, but we also have collective energy. So if I've got
Mhm.
resentment, then there's a collective energy of resentment. And I
Mhm.
explain them to people as, think of them as like banks and bank accounts. I've got
Mhm.
resentment and I've invested money in that bank account.
Mhm.
And then so it's stored in two places.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
I kick off my resentment, and all of
Right.
a sudden I can feel a mother load coming at me because it wants
Right.
to fuel it up. It wants me to
Right. We have
reinvest.
an attachment to it.
Yes.
It
Yes.
has the attachment to us, and we have the attachment to it.
It's an
Right.
exchange. Yeah. And it's in a mutual relationship. So then as I resolve mine, I
Yeah.
actually start taking that out of the mass, and all of a sudden we got to change. So
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
so that's how I've
Beautiful.
spent
Thank
30
you.
years mapping
Mhm.
our soul's unconsciousness
Mhm.
and their barriers to us evolving. So yeah,
I have, if there's time for just one more quote, that topic of control.
yeah,
I have a quote from Alan Watts that I think is just beautiful, that might be a nice way to start to wrap things up.
yeah, go for it.
He wrote in his book, The Wisdom of Insecurity. So for me, again, this is, you were talking about control. It came up a number of times in those barriers. There is a contradiction in wanting to be perfectly secure in a universe whose very nature is momentariness and fluidity. But the contradiction lies a little deeper than the mere conflict between the desire for security and the fact of change. Because if I want to be secure, that is, protected from the flux of life, I am wanting to be separate from life. Yet it is this very sense of separateness which makes me feel insecure. To be secure means to isolate and fortify the I, but it is just the feeling of being an isolated I which makes me feel lonely and afraid. In other words, the more security I can get, the more I shall want. To put it still more plainly, the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. A society based on the quest for security is nothing but a breath retention contest in which everyone is taut as a drum and as purple as a beet.
Yeah. See, I
I love
see.
that.
Yeah, I do too, and I see the sense of security that we try to create is often an illusion,
Hmm.
and we can't hold it.
Right.
And when it busts, a good friend of mine once said, she's no longer with us. Gail once said to me, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's those that the bubble has busted, and there's those that hasn't busted enough yet. And I get what she meant was that when we hold on to an illusion and we think that's going to give us security, somewhere along that's going to blow,
Right. Right.
and then can we deal with that?
Right.
So
Right.
I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you. Me
And
too. Thank you for giving me this time to explore some of these questions a little more in depth.